Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. In 1950, a strange extraterrestrial close encounter occurred in the rural outskirts of Bahia Blanca, Venezuela, approximately 75 miles or 120 kilometres from the capital city of Caracas. This incident, known as the Botta encounter, involved Dr. Enrique Botta, a former pilot who was working as an engineer at the time. The experience, he reported, would become one of many UFO sightings documented in South America during that era. One evening, Enrique was driving back to his hotel after a long day at a nearby construction site where he was employed. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Venezuelan countryside. As he navigated the winding road, something unusual caught his eye in a nearby field. Enrique, a man of science and rational thinking, found himself face to face with an object that defied conventional explanation. He described it as a domed disc, crafted from a silvery metallic material. The craft, approximately 30 feet in diameter, rested at a slight angle on the ground, with no visible means of support or landing gear. Intrigued and admittedly apprehensive, Enrique made the decision to investigate further. He pulled his car to the side of the road and cautiously approached the mysterious object. As he drew closer, he noticed an open doorway on one side of the craft, inviting further exploration. Peering inside, Enrique observed a small empty chamber bathed in an ethereal hazy glow. A pulsating red light added to the otherworldly ambience. Curiosity overcame caution, and Enrique reached out to touch the craft's exterior. To his surprise, despite its metallic appearance, the surface of the object had a peculiar jelly-like consistency. Emboldened by his initial observations, Enrique stepped inside the craft. The first chamber led to a second, much larger room that would become the focal point of the incredible encounter. It was here that Enrique came face to face with the truly extraordinary. 3 figures, each approximately 4 feet tall, sat motionless on a curved bench or sofa. They were facing away from Enrique, seemingly fixated on what appeared to be a control panel. The beings wore tight-fitting garments that covered their bodies up to their necks. Their heads, disproportionately large compared with their bodies, appeared hairless. Enrique, his heart racing, cautiously approached the silent trio. The control panel before them was a complex array of gauges, lights and meters, crowned by a slowly rotating, transparent sphere that hovered above the console. The entire scene was like something out of a science fiction novel, yet here it was, tangible and real. In a moment of either extraordinary courage or reckless curiosity, Enrique reached out to touch one of the figures. The sensation that met his fingertips was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The being was rigid and hard, its skin reminiscent of charred wood. This unexpected texture, combined with the creature's lack of response to his presence, led Enrique to a chilling conclusion. These beings were no longer alive. Overwhelmed by fear and the implications of his discovery, Enrique fled the craft. He raced back to his car and sped to the hotel where he and his fellow engineers were staying. Upon arrival, he immediately sought out his 2 closest colleagues, his voice trembling as he recounted the incredible tale. One of his companions, an avid hunter who always travelled with his firearm, suggested they return to the site to further investigate the craft and its deceased occupants. However, given the late hour and the unsettling nature of the encounter, the group decided to wait until morning to revisit the scene. As dawn broke the following day, Enrique and his two colleagues drove back to the site, their minds racing with anticipation and trepidation. But to their astonishment, the disc-shaped craft had vanished without a trace. In its place, they discovered only a small pile of ashes. One of Enrique's friends, driven by curiosity, reached down to touch the remnants. To his shock, the ash was hot to the touch, and his hand allegedly turned an alarming shade of purple, causing him to recoil instantly. Their bewilderment only intensified when they spotted an unidentified flying object circling high above them. This new craft bore a distinctly different cigar shape and pulsed with an eerie red glow. After a few minutes of silent observation, the object abruptly sped off, leaving the three men alone with their thoughts and unanswered questions. The strange encounters of that morning seemed to have profound effects on Enrique. Later that same day, he collapsed with a severe fever and was rushed to the nearest hospital. His condition worsened as his skin erupted in a rash and began to blister. Perplexed by these symptoms, the attending physicians conducted a series of tests, including checks for radiation exposure, but found no conclusive explanation for his sudden illness. In the absence of a clear diagnosis, the medical team speculated that Enrique might be suffering from an unusually severe case of sunburn. This theory, however, was at odds with Enrique's recent work history, which had kept him largely shielded from prolonged sun exposure. After several days of treatment and rest, Enrique's condition improved and he was discharged from the hospital. The Botta encounter of 1950 occurred during a period of increasing UFO activity across South America. In the post-World War II era, reports of unidentified flying objects were becoming more frequent in countries like Brazil, Argentina, and Venezuela. This wave of sightings created a climate of curiosity and speculation about extraterrestrial visitations. Initially, Enrique chose to keep the details of his extraordinary encounter to himself, wary of the potential ridicule or disbelief he might face. His hesitation was understandable, given the unprecedented nature of his experience and the skepticism that often met such claims. However, as reports of UFO sightings became increasingly common throughout South America in the following years, he felt compelled to share his experience. The growing acceptance of such phenomena and the sheer volume of reported incidents provided a more receptive environment for accounts like Enrique's. Enrique's decision to speak out about the events of that evening in 1950 came at a time when many South American countries were undergoing rapid industrialisation and urban development. This led to more people travelling through remote areas where such sightings often occurred, contributing to the increase in reported encounters. By sharing his story, Enrique added his voice to a growing number of witnesses across the continent, contributing to the rich catalogue of UFO cases that was rapidly developing throughout South America. His account, while unique in its details, became part of a broader phenomenon that was capturing the imagination of people across the region. In the years following Enrique's account, some UFO researchers speculated about the nature of the beings he reportedly encountered. The strange texture of their skin, described as rigid and reminiscent of charred wood, coupled with their inanimate state, has led to intriguing theories. Some have suggested that these entities might not have been organic life forms at all, but rather artificial beings or advanced robots. This speculation aligns with certain schools of thought in ufology that suggest some reported extraterrestrial encounters might involve artificial intelligences or synthetic beings rather than organic aliens. The Botta encounter stands as one amongst a vast quantity of reported UFO incidents from the mid-20th century. While skeptics may question the veracity of Enrique's account, his detailed description and the corroboration of his colleagues have made this incident a subject of interest in the study of close encounters.